All right, let's talk about a new framework, a new way of thinking that's designed to tackle the massive global challenges we're all facing. We're going to dive into what's called the Phoenix platform and see what this proposed architecture for the future is all about.
You know, you hear all the terms flying around: climate crisis, economic instability, social fragmentation. But the folks behind this framework use a really powerful word to tie it all together: a polycrisis. And the key idea here is that these aren't just a bunch of separate problems we can tick off a list. No, they're all tangled up in this massive interconnected web. Pull on one string and the whole thing shakes.
And this gets right to the heart of it. The argument is that what we're seeing on the surface, all those crises, they're just symptoms. The real disease, the root cause, is a fundamental breakdown in our relationships with each other, with our own communities, and with the planet itself. It's a crisis of coherence, really. We've lost the ability to act together in a healthy, meaningful way.
So if the problem is that we lack coherence, you got to ask, why are our current systems so bad at creating it? Well, let's take a look at the historical patterns, the failure modes that have gotten us into this mess in the first place. Now, here's the wild part, the central paradox of our time. For centuries, our societies have run on fear-based survival instincts, right? Competition, control, taking what we can get. And the deep irony is that those very strategies, the ones meant to keep us safe and help us survive, are now pushing us toward the edge. We're literally stuck in a cycle of building things up just to watch them collapse. And now it's happening on a global scale. So this slide lays it out perfectly. It's a tale of two paradigms. On one side, you have the old way, fragmentation and extraction. It's all about competition, short-term gains, and what's called isolated excellence. You know, brilliant people and amazing projects that never actually connect to change the whole system. And on the other side, that's the shift we need to make. A paradigm of coherence and regeneration, one that's built on collaboration, long-term thinking, and a focus on being effective together. Which, of course, brings us to the proposed solution. I mean, if you're going to shift from one paradigm to another, you can't just wish for it. You need a new kind of infrastructure to support this totally new way of working together. So let's see how this framework suggests we could build an architecture for coherence. So what exactly is the Phoenix platform? It is so important to understand that this isn't being pitched as some finished product or a top-down, one-size-fits-all solution. Think of it more like a participatory infrastructure, a collaborative commons that we can all design and build together. Its one and only job is to help us make that leap from fragmentation into real working coherence. And at the very core, the heart of this whole architecture, is a concept they call the synergy engine. You can think of it as the intelligence layer, kind of like the nervous system for the entire platform. It's the engine that's actually designed to make all of this coordination and coherence possible. So how's it supposed to work? Well, imagine the synergy engine as this incredible master connector. Its job is to find organizations that are working on similar things and bring them together, so we stop wasting time and money doing the same work over and over. It's meant to speed up the whole process of learning something and then actually doing something with that knowledge. And most importantly, it's designed to build trust through total transparency, allowing for massive collaboration on a global scale, but without forcing everyone to be the same. Okay, now we're getting into the real blueprint of the system. What actually gives this architecture its strength? What holds it all together? Well, according to the source material, it all comes down to 7 foundational capacities. And the source is really clear about this. The power of this entire platform, this whole idea, rests on these 7 core, non-negotiable capacities. These aren't just optional features. They are the essential building blocks of the whole thing. They call these capacities the structural spine, and I think that's the perfect way to put it. This is the absolute minimum framework required for us as a species to coordinate effectively and finally break out of those historical failure loops we were just talking about. And this visual helps it all click into place. You can see how these 7 core capacities provide the solid foundation. From there, a totally modular and interoperable system can be built right on top. So let's finally break down what these capacities are. Okay, so the 7 capacities are basically bundled into 3 main jobs. First, we need to see reality clearly. That involves things like collective sensemaking and dynamic systems mapping. Second, we have to measure what matters, which means using things like multi-capital accounting and metrics that are actually aligned with life and well-being. And finally, we have to act coherently, which is where synergistic orchestration, trusted governance, and rapid learning come into play. Let's dig into that first one a little more.
So what does seeing reality clearly actually mean here? It's about building a shared map of our incredibly complex world. The capacity for collective sense-making gives us the tools to look at the same information and actually come to a shared understanding. Then, dynamic systems mapping lets us see how all the different pieces connect, so we can finally pinpoint the best places to intervene to make a real difference. Without that shared map, we're all just wandering in the dark.
So when you put all of this together, when you step back and look at the whole picture, it really presents humanity with a fundamental choice about how we want to move forward from here.
This quote right here, it just nails the whole idea. The old way is just crisis management, running around, putting out fires, lurching from one disaster to the next. This new paradigm, enabled by an infrastructure with these deep capacities, is about proactively stewarding the health of our planet and our societies for the long haul. It's a complete shift in our collective mindset.
And this is so important. This isn't a pre-packaged plan that's being forced on anyone. It's presented as an invitation. An open invitation for all of us to roll up our sleeves and actually participate in co-designing the foundations for a future that can actually work, one that's regenerative and truly coherent. You know, in the end, the core argument here is that our future won't be saved by a few brilliant people working alone in their silos. It's going to be determined by our ability to create what's called synergistic coherence. And that leaves us with a pretty big question. It's not about if we should build it, but how we will choose to build it together.